We got some breaking news in regards to the Detroit Lions. Josh Reynolds, we're going to get into that as he signs with another team. We're going to be talking about going over a mock draft and what Heavy.com taking a big swing at a player for a trade. So that's what today's video is all about. So without further ado, let's go. Yesterday, we talked about how Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell would like to have bringing back Josh Reynolds. One day later, he signs a 2-year deal with the Denver Broncos, $14 million, $7 million a year. That's a lot of money. And for him, congratulations to Josh Reynolds to get that type of money. 29 years old veteran. I wish him nothing but the best, and hopefully he does good over there for the Denver Broncos as they're doing a rebuild. But the Detroit Lions are not going to pay $7 million a year to Josh Reynolds. They couldn't do that. That's just a little bit too much money we're talking about a 3/5 type of wide receiver. So, $14 million, that's a lot of money for a Josh Reynolds when if you want to get better at the position, you can simply probably just draft a wide receiver now. And you can plug that play in or Antoine Green, see if he can take a step up. But paying $14 million 2-year deal for Josh Reynolds just seems like something that would be a little bit too much for Reynolds. What does this mean for the Detroit Lions? Well, we're going to have to get, obviously, another wide receiver for that roster spot. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think, now go to 3/4. So you'll have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Khalif Raymond. And right now we got Antoine Green. So they very well could draft a wide receiver in this year's draft, and it could be at pick 29. Make no mistake about it. Brad Holmes talked about going best player available, and if it's a wide receiver, it's going to be a wide receiver. Now, I know it's going to make a lot of people mad if they were to take a wide receiver at 29, but now we have to fill that spot where Reynolds is at. We do. Reynolds is no longer here. We no longer got Reynolds wrapped besides Craig, as he's going to go to the Denver Broncos. And we're not going to get any comp picks for this because it's only a 2-year, $14 million deal. That's going to be nothing, and we signed players already in free agency, so we're not going to get a comp pick for Josh Reynolds. So we got to get that spot filled. So now, soon, I'm going to do a video about maybe 10 wide receivers the Lions could look at in free agency and in the draft to replace a Josh Reynolds. And I don't think it's going to take a lot. I really don't. I like Josh Reynolds. I do 600 yards last year. Touchdowns. He has familiarity with Jared Goff. At the same time, we can't pay that type of money. So it stinks in the sense that he already knew the offense. He already knew Jared Goff to start off fast. But it's going to save us money, and maybe we can get a better player in the draft to replace him at that wide receiver position. I do like Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's why I wanted to bring him back. He really could fill in a lot of Reynolds. And him and Jared Goff were starting to get on the same page. A few games left in the season. Now he'll have a whole off season. Training camp, him and Goff can get together and do their thing. One thing negative about Reynolds is he did fumble quite a bit when he would catch the football, and obviously the big drops in the NFC Championship game. So that's something that we no longer got a deal with anymore. Give me your thoughts on Reynolds being gone. Throw in some words in the comment section. One word reaction. I am payday. I'll go for him. Payday. $7 million for Reynolds. He only had 600 yards. Quite a bit of money. And so I'm going to give him a payday. I wish him absolute best. And that's the way he should be, right? Is getting the most money for himself. So no hate towards Reynolds. Go over there. Have fun with your new team, Denver. And hopefully, Sean Payton can help you out. Lions are urged to take a swing at Patrick Surtain. That's what Heavy.com did. I did a video on my personal channel, but just in case you didn't see it, we'll throw it on here. The Broncos are in a retool mode over there, right? They got to get a new quarterback. Sean Payton's trying to change his ways. Maybe they would deal him. They're saying here it's on the 29th pick in the first round and a 25 fourth round pick to Denver Broncos for Surtain. I'm telling you right now, that's not going to get it done. It's going to take 2 first-round picks to get a Patrick Surtain. Heavy.com is not understanding the real value of Patrick Surtain. There's no way he's going to go for 1 and a 5th or a 4th. It's not happening. The 29th pick and a 4th-round pick, no way. When Patrick Surtain's an all-pro corner, he's an island corner, he's a Pro Bowler, no one likes to throw his way. He's one of the best corners in all of football. And it's really difficult to find good corners in the NFL. There's no way on God's green earth they would do it for that price. In my opinion, it's going to cost the Detroit Lions 2 first-round picks and maybe a 4th-round pick, right? It would cost that much to get Surtain. They said the Broncos are in a place where they're about to embark on a rebuild with Surtain's deal almost up. They have picks up for expensive 5th-year option and sign him to a new lucrative contract. They'd have to do that while presumably trying to find a quarterback. They're out of range from the top ones in the NFL draft. Now, look, if they really want to get a quarterback, they could be hyperbolic and try to use him for that. But in all honesty, if they're wanting to get a quarterback, they probably could get a much higher draft pick for Surtain. We're talking probably a top 10 draft pick this year for Surtain. So if they're really wanting to do it, there's teams, I'm sure, in the top 10 that would love to have a Surtain and flip it. I mean, that's how much it is. Lions can offer the Broncos a chance to relieve themselves from big money off Surtain, a very nice deal, and use him for trade scenario for this year's draft. The Lions, I think they would be fine with paying him because he's so good. He's worth that money. But realistically, this is not going to happen. I mean, I would love it. I'm telling you right now, if the Lions, if they got Surtain for a 1st and a 4th, I would be doing backflips as the trade of the century. It was probably going to cost 2 firsts, a little bit more, and I just don't see the Detroit Lions doing that. I don't see it. But if they did, it'd be the greatest trade of all time. And they already traded for Carlton Davis, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Fansided did a mock draft here, a 7-round mock draft. So we're going to go over this 7-round mock draft and give you my thoughts on this one. I've only seen the first pick. I haven't seen the second pick. First round, they take Keon Coleman, wide receiver from Florida State. Josh Reynolds just moved on. It makes sense. And I can see the Lions now taking a wide receiver with the 29th pick. I can't. They absolutely could. They're BPA, and absolutely no doubt they can do it. He's a big wide receiver, talking 6'3". He would replace that size. He'd be bigger than Josh Reynolds. He'd be probably the biggest receiver on the team. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones would be sick for size. If you're wanting to get touchdowns, you would have him, DPJ, and as you know, St. Brown is going to be open everywhere. So this is a legit option, and I'm not going to be upset. Not going to be upset. I prefer to go defense. Let's just keep it 100. I do prefer to go defense, but I can't argue this pick there. Christian Mahogany in the second round. I actually had him in my mock draft that I just did. Mahogany would be a solid pick at guard. If Cooper Beebe is gone, if Powers is gone, then Mahogany would make a great option with in the second round. But could you see the Lions go 2 offensive players the first 2 picks? I think people would lose it. Even though I'm fine with Mahogany right there, people would lose it. And you're not addressing defense. But he's a great player. Be fine. Marshawn Nealon, edge from Western Michigan. We've talked about him many times. This could be a legit pick for the Detroit Lions. Realistically, right now, this mock draft is a realistic one. Nealon, I would love to have him. I think he would be way better than Marcus Davenport, a young guy who would immediately make an impact. I don't know if he wouldn't make an Hutchinson impact, but he'd make an impact. Look at last year. Lee McNeil was the second in sacks with 5. Nealon could get more than that right immediately. He's got the size. He's got the stature. He did well last year. The Detroit Lions could realistically do it, and you basically have 3 starters. Now Mahogany may not start initially, but you could have 3 starters there. It's realistic. It's realistic. I still would like to go defense earlier. Just FYI. 4th round. Elijah Jones, corner out of Boston College. Well, currently or a fifth round. Let's say if it's a fourth, we don't have a fourth round pick, and I expect the Detroit Lions to eventually have a fourth round pick, and that's in maybe a trade swap or whatever. But Elijah Jones, developmental quarter. He's got size. He's fast. 440, 6'1". I don't know he would make much of an impact this year. I don't know, and that's the problem. Yeah, I think he could develop into a good corner. We're good at developing. I would be fine with getting him in the fifth round and they drafting another corner before that. So this would be a developmental guy. I don't think he would be a starter. It'd take a little bit maybe for injuries. But he's good. He is a good player, just not starting right now. Christian Boyd, defensive tackle. I actually don't know a lot about him. It says 6'4", 317 pounds, so he's a bigger guy. I couldn't tell you a lot about him, so I'm very unfamiliar. But if they wanted to go defensive tackle later, is anyone going to argue no? We're talking development. Sixth round, safety, Dominique Hampton. Again, I don't know anything about this guy, but we do need to get another safety. It makes sense. Harrison Mevis, kicker, Missouri. I think you're going to see a lot of people put kicker here. Now, they want to go Harrison Mevis. They could. If they want Coda, they could. There's plenty of kickers out there. Detroit Lions need to get a kicker to compete with Michael Badgley, and Brad Holmes stated that's what he's going to do. So this mock draft is 100% realistic. Now, I personally would like to go defense a little earlier, but make no mistake, it's a realistic mock draft. It is, and I would give this a B grade. I prefer to go defense a little bit earlier, so I'm going to give this a B grade. In the comment section, grade this guy's mock draft from Sideline Report. You can check it out as well on sideline.com, 7-round mock draft. Let me know your thoughts. Give this draft a grade. With that said, folks, adios.